This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Detroit is the greatest!
Straight up light you on fire for a Coney dog right now.
Darren McCarty comes back with Neiman in front of him. McCarty draws. McCarty in. McCarty scores! A magnificent goal! Darren McCarty!
Stafford takes, throws, end zone, Calvin, touchdown, Detroit Lions!
What up, everybody? It's the Motor City Sports Rant, episode number 106. I am Jason Jarvie. Follow me on Twitter at Jarvie the King. And I'm not even sure if I'm supposed to talk to him or maybe I'm supposed to leave him alone for 10 minutes before the show even starts. But a TV star and producer for most of the shows on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, John the Doc Macaroon. What up?
Jason, excellent segue into what we got to talk about. Similar to Steve Harvey, I am now going to have some new requests. If you're going to start showing up late to the studio, you're going to start having to pay some fines. Okay, we have a set recording time, and if you're going to not let me do my thing and podcast, as you know, I love podcasting, as I'm doing 4 or 5 every single week. If you're going to waste my time, you're going to have to pay a fine. 2, you can no longer text me directly any questions regarding the podcast. You got to go through Vito. So now, because of the newfound success that I have, we now have what's called...
Vito's your little bitch.
We got now the chain of command, and you can't just access the boss. And I totally agree with Steve Harvey. And for a guy like him and his stature to come out and be like, look, I need more personal time. Stop interrupting me. Stop coming in. You need an appointment. Now, you don't need an appointment to come talk to me. You will always have the accessibility to me, but you just can't reach me directly. I just want you to go through the chain of command and follow that the next time you want to talk to me. And come to start the podcast on time.
Give my message to Vito, and Vito has to get to you. He kneels before you and gives you my text message, and then he gives his response to you, and then he comes back to me and lets me know.
Exactly. So it's one of those things where sometimes you may not get a response within the proper limits or whatever.
Vito's getting a raw deal here, man. He does so much for this podcast network.
You can see that, huh?
You're throwing him under the bus.
I have to give him more jobs because the more he seeks in compensation, the more I got to give him some more work to do. Can't just have the guy, keep taking the funds from the DSP network and not give him no jobs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess if you want to earn the title Podfather, then you gotta work your way up from the bottom.
No doubt about it.
Started from the bottom, now we're here.
All right, all kidding aside, the events with George Lopez last week were unbelievable. It was nice to be part of a television production. Who knows when it's going to air or on what situation. I think it's going to be on A&E, but I'm not exactly sure yet the details, but I was part of the filming. It did go down. I got to go down to Old Tiger Stadium, and what happened was they filled out, they got the entire block next to the construction site at Old Tiger Stadium. And what George Lopez did was he took a person that he was interviewing and went to the old field and grabbed dirt so that on Thursday he could complete the exorcism with the old dirt from the Old Tiger Stadium where the Lions used to play. So there was significance because I was wondering too, why are we going to Old Tiger Stadium? But the Lions did play there, and George Lopez really cares about the city. He really cares about the Lions, and you could tell his passion in that he's a very superstitious kind of guy. And he said, look, I want to come in here and work on exercising the Lions curse and getting them some success. Thursday, I was more prominently featured, and I'll share some stories then. But as the week progressed, it was really cool to see how television is produced, see George Lopez in his element. And the sense that I got was it wasn't acted. It was just George Lopez being cool, being calm, having a good old chat with local fans and things like that. So it was an amazing experience. Thursday, a little bit more theatrical in terms of people getting really hyped for the television program. But all in all, it was a great experience. I enjoyed it. I got a chance to talk to him in person and on the radio. And this was all done to help cure the Bobby Lane curse. And this is what people believe in that, people that are superstitious, they believe that Bobby Lane cursed the Lions and it's still going on. And George Lopez, in all his efforts, is trying to help the Detroit Lions and help the community. And you really got a sense.
Do you have a little background on the Bobby Lane curse?
I know it all now because I became a little bit more familiar with it. Obviously, we knew that.
Give me a quick rundown
No doubt about
what
it.
the curse is.
Bobby Lane won 3 championships in his career with the Detroit Lions. Towards the tail end of his career, he kind of got done dirty. He wasn't the same quarterback that he had been. So the Lions said, see ya, and they traded him. Now, based on history, Bobby Lane's the most successful Detroit Lions quarterback, 3 NFL championships, and they traded him. Rumor was when he discovered that he had been traded to Pittsburgh, he walked out and said, these Detroit Lions are not going to win for 50 years. And so thus, the Bobby Lane curse was born. And then you got a lot of things going on with the organization since the 50s, only 1 playoff win. You know all the embarrassing moments with Lomas Brown.
But 50 years has passed.
It's been 50 years.
10 years. We're now at 60 years.
But you realize the 50th year was the 0-16 season. So it culminated in a season where the Lions didn't win anything. So something's going on with the organization.
And you could argue that we have been a little bit more successful in recent history.
Exactly. But you realize now that if you believe in superstitions, Matthew Stafford went to the same high school as Bobby Lane. And so if this kind of comes full circle and we make him the highest paid NFL athlete of all time and he starts to turn it around for the Lions, hey, you never know. This could be the start of the turnaround and the end of the curse.
And you don't want to pay Matthew Stafford the money. You selfish son of a bitch, John.
I'm of the opinion that this might be even part of the curse because what haven't we had? Real hope. Right now, Matthew Stafford is giving the entire state of Michigan, all of Detroit Lions Nation's hope that he could be the guy. But as of this recording, he is 0-3 in his postseason efforts. And so people are talking about similarities to him to Dan Marino, to John Elway, to quarterbacks that took a long time for them to have success. But you got to realize that, we're thinking about, is he worth that money? Now, he is super lucky in that he's benefiting from the obvious lack of success from Lions quarterbacks. He is the best Lions quarterback that anyone has ever seen, so that's why he's got strong support. But I'm of the opinion right now it's about 55% support for Stafford and 45% dissent. And that's because, obviously, we're coming off a season in which he got them to the postseason, but there's still strong dissent.
I don't know. I think if you ask all those people, you say, so you don't like Matthew Stafford, and you say 45% say, no, I don't think you pay him that money. You ask them, okay, then what do you do? I guarantee you more than half, probably closer to 80-90%, they won't have an answer for you. And you'll get the people say, oh, you just go out and draft a quarterback, but none of them will have an answer that says, or that will put the Lions in a winning situation.
But see, Jason, in the end, here's how you got to look at it. Would you rather have a quarterback like Matthew Stafford who teases success, who has all the stats, who has all the intangibles, has everything, the strong arm, the personality, he's a gym rat, first guy in, last guy to leave, but doesn't have anything to show for it? Or would you rather say, look, it's all the same. Would you rather have a Jake Rudock start fresh and run this offense?
It's
in the end,
all the same.
It's all the same, Jason.
It isn't all the same. It's Matthew Stafford gives the best chance to win right now.
Win what?
To actually win a playoff game. You can't tell me that Jake Rudock is going to come in here mid-season or mid-preseason and is just going to be able to pick up everything and take us to a playoff victory. But this is Jake Rudock. He doesn't have Jim Harbaugh as his coach anymore.
You can't factually say that. Now, this is a guy that's learning, and you realize, no.
But you also can't factually say that Matt Stafford isn't going to win these games.
Right now, he's 0-3. So technically, his playoff resume, Matthew Stafford, is the same as Jake Rudock. He's got the same playoff caliber resume. They don't have any playoff wins. So you can't sit here and say that a guy like Jake Rudock, who has not yet been given a chance to play in the regular season, to see what he can do.
So we go into a playoff game tomorrow. Who do you want? Do you want Matthew Stafford or do you want Jake Rudock?
I'm not comfortable with either because I believe that the Lions are struggling.
That's a shitty answer, John.
Are you comfortable?
Give me an answer. Matt Stafford, Jake Rudock.
All we can look back to is the last performance. How many touchdowns did Matthew Stafford and the Lions offense accumulate versus Seattle?
It doesn't matter. I'm asking you one question. We're going to a playoff game tomorrow. Matthew Stafford or Jake Rudock as your quarterback?
Both quarterbacks I don't have confidence in.
That's not an answer. Pick one.
If I pick one,
your head, pick one.
It's Matthew Stafford.
Duh!
But I'm not saying. But the question is not who do I want to start the playoff game. The question is, do I believe that the organization needs to make him the highest paid athlete And
that's
my
what you
answer is
have
no.
to do in the NFL nowadays. We don't have the benefit of going through and waiting another 5-7 years of trying to develop a different quarterback. We have a team that is slightly put together and could be on the verge of doing something in the NFL.
Okay, so with Matthew Stafford, these are the kind of debates that everybody has. And many people are wondering, okay, is Matthew Stafford the guy? And a guy like George Lopez came to town. He's heard all this, and he's like, look, I'm going to do whatever it takes to try and start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to interject myself in the story too. Now, if the Lions have success in 2017, I'm only going to take credit for probably this season and 2018. After that, the effects of Doc being, at the ceremony will subside, and I won't take credit. But George Lopez and the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, we will try anything to exercise the curse to make the Lions win. And so I had an opportunity to call George Lopez when he was on the ticket, and this is courtesy of the Jamie and Stoney Show, their Facebook page. I was able to call and speak to the man directly prior to our first meeting in person. And this is what I told him. And I think it makes sense, too, because I was a little bit skeptical. So here's my phone call, and you can tell me what you think.
The curse, 248-539-9797 is our telephone number. We're also broadcasting on Facebook Live right now as well. Let's go to the phones. Talk to John and Macomb here on 97.1 The Ticket. John, you're on with George Lopez. What's up, John?
Thank you guys for having me. Very fine program. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Listen, George, thank you so much for coming to town to try and fix the Detroit Lions. Now, you guys just listed off a list of tragedies. There is a long list of embarrassing moments with these Detroit Lions. You guys know one of the most revered coaches, Wayne Fontes. Everybody reveres him. Obviously got arrested a couple times for drugs. And then after he's done, comes back and sues the Detroit Lions for damages, saying that because of, wear and tear and things like that, he can no longer coach. Obviously thrown out, but there's a lineage and a long list of embarrassing moments with these Detroit Lions.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. If you could sue somebody for using drugs and alcohol, the fact that it got thrown out, I'm not going to do it. But if he had been successful, I think I was going to file lawsuits today.
George, let me tell you, this fine program that you're on is trying to do anything to help the Lions get better. I do a podcast with my cousin Adam, and it's not as great as this fine program that you're on, but we rant and rave week in, week out about these Detroit Lions. It's so frustrating being a fan of the worst organization in the history of sports.
Okay, I want to invite you. I want to invite you to the ceremony where we will lift the curse of the Lions. Okay. I want to invite you to the ceremony. And bring your cousin Adam.
Listen, George, it might not just take you. I mean, your efforts alone might not be powerful because I think the entire state of Michigan and any Lions fan has prayed to God to do anything to lift this curse. And it might take you, all your friends that are coming for the tour. It might take the entire nation. And this might need to be an international effort to try and fix this Detroit Lions.
Maybe intergalactic, John.
Intergalactic as well. It might take, things that we have never even thought of to try and lift this curse.
Are you a Lions? You're clearly a Lions fan?
I'm a diehard. I've watched every single snap of every single game since 1991, and I'm suffering. That's what we are.
Has anything bad happened to you where you would blame it on necessarily maybe you were a Lions fan and something happened to you? Maybe your car didn't start in the parking lot or something went on?
Yeah, my blood pressure goes over 200 every single Sunday when the game is over because I'm not a fan that just sits on my hands. I'm a fan that's, pacing back and forth, cursing, the current head coach, Jim Caldwell, for not being able to get 11 guys on the field. I'm cursing to the high heavens, and I'm sitting here watching going, please, my goodness, this is not what a professional football team does.
All right, thanks, John, for the phone call. Now,
so wait a minute. You said to start this off that was a rookie radio move. What was that, by acknowledging George?
No, thanks for having me on, guys.
Oh, well, listen, I wanted to first thank them for taking the phone call. They didn't have to have, a guy that does a podcast on their network.
Dive right in. Just start your talk.
Oh, that's the rule? You don't really just thank them for having me on?
All the people, hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Duly noted.
First time, long time.
Duly noted. You don't want that. You don't care about all that. Just jump right in and say, get your topic.
Start talking.
Okay, so overall, okay. Thank you for telling me that from the fine producer over there at The Bounce. I appreciate that. Overall, though, did it seem pretty smooth and that I was a passionate Lions fan and trying to do anything to help the curse?
You did seem like a passionate Lions fan, John. You did come off that.
Okay.
I know obviously you were already invited.
Yes, I was invited to come on.
A little behind the scenes, a little showing how the sausage gets made.
Yes, I was invited to come on there and talk. I had prepped already. But the part that George misunderstood was it was two different comments. I was talking about embarrassing moments with Wayne Fontes. So no, the lawsuit wasn't tied to him.
You probably didn't know about Wayne.
No, of course. So the issue was, obviously I did a little bit of research on embarrassing Lions moments. And one, Wayne Fontes did, in fact, sue the Lions, saying that him being the coach was detrimental and da-da-da. He sought damages. That's one.
I think that might have been a little out there. If I might interject, a better one you could have brought up, more recent, the coach who went through the Wendy's drive-thru naked?
There you go. I should have brought that up. See, next time I will definitely run it by you. But at the same time, another thing was there were rumors and speculation regarding Wayne Fontes and things like that. He was arrested for possession. It was thrown out, or he did not get convicted, so he was arrested. But that's still embarrassing under that notion. So it was two separate events. So it wasn't like he got a lot. He didn't sue the Lions because he got arrested for drugs. No, it was two different things. If you want to look it up, it's all over. If you just type in Wayne Fontes legal problems, it's all there. So it wasn't like I was just trying to mix stuff up. But that's exactly right. See, I could have brought up a much more relevant. But see, that was the point that I made was there's a long list of embarrassing moments with the Lions in which it all ties into curse, tragedy, embarrassing moments, futile seasons.
You could have just gone on like draft picks alone.
Exactly.
Charles Rogers, just him.
Exactly, Jason.
He's embarrassing and a tragedy.
But at the same time, you can't say that the Detroit Sports Podcast Network is not doing their part to help lift the curse. And we'll do anything. As evidenced by what's going on, it is something where we are fans of the Lions. Now, of course, we complain. We're skeptical. We look at all sides. We're not, homers. We look at all sides of the Lions. But at the end of the day, we would all flip our shit if the Lions won, and we would I would take the day off, shut down the podcast. I would make sure
I would take a week off.
We'd take a week off, and we would celebrate. Hell, even if the Lions got to the Super Bowl, it would be awesome those 2 weeks.
So I got a couple questions.
Sure.
One, is there even a curse? Do you actually believe that there is a curse, that there is higher powers that are hindering the Lions' success?
I think there's something going on when you start looking at what it is that's going on with this organization. Outside of decisions, talent, there are some weird events going on surrounding that Lions organization, and we got to find ways to remedy it.
Now, my next question then is, with this whole superstitious, is the curse lifted?
I believe when this thing airs and the energy that was put out at this ceremony, my goodness, we had an extraordinary time, me and Vito, and we had a great time. I do believe that this ceremony will do a lot to help out with exercising the curse.
Will it only be lifted if it airs?
It'll be lifted. I'm saying it now. It's duly noted.
Regardless if this show
We
airs.
documented it all along the way that we were part of something, and George Lopez also aired part of it on his Instagram page, which you can see the doc, celebrating another Lions fan, giving him the, bow with my hands going up and down. So it was aired. So it is on record. I, tweeted out, before I signed the release, some information. So it was cool. So it has been lifted.
So lastly, I think it is skeptical if there is a curse on the Lions, but I'm not going to deny that there are certain superstitions that I have about the Lions, and it's more on a game-to-game basis. Like, is there a certain jersey you wear or you don't wear anymore because maybe the Lions got completely blown out, or is there, I don't know, do you eat anything specific?
Yeah, my thing is that I'm a nervous fan in that if the Lions are having success and they're up by 7 or 3 and the other team has the ball and there's a chance that they could come back and lose, I just turn off the TV.
Yeah.
So I cannot tolerate, even in any sporting event, I am too nervous to actually watch painful stuff. There have been so many moments of Michigan State's in the NCAA tournament that I've just turned off because I'm nervous and I want them to win so bad that I just cannot tolerate seeing more bad luck from the Lions.
Yeah, and I know for me I know it's dumb, but there's sometimes where it's just like, well, I can't wear this Lions shirt anymore because they're just on a losing streak, or maybe it's like certain people you watch the game with, and I know it makes no difference at all, but I don't know, it's something that you try and quantify as a Lions fan why they're losing, so you try and do whatever you can.
No doubt about it. Do you believe in curses? Do you believe that there's something supernatural going on with this organization?
I don't think that there's an actual curse, but there's definitely something that had been wrong. I think it had been wrong. I think if whatever this curse or whatever it may be, I think we are moving past it and we've seen it. We had the run with Barry in the 90s. So I mean, I think we've all pretty much gone through our period of success, except for that the 10-year black plague of Matt Millen, that you could say that you didn't really have any success in that era. But I think we're finally moving past. We're going in the right direction. I think if we do win, I think just win one playoff game, I think that'll do loads for this fan base, that where we will have more hope as a fan base.
Okay, so we'll see. It's likely, if you follow us on Twitter at Detroit Podcast, when it airs, we will definitely tell everybody and how it's going to work, and we'll see if the nation will witness, the birth of a true reality superstar, which is the DOC, the Doxer. That's just how it's going to go. I think there's a strong chance that it's going to be aired, and I hope it does, because Mr. Lopez put in a lot of work for this, and I think that he's going to do a great job and things like that.
There's a strong chance that you're going to have a gigantic head and a massive ego.
Yes.
And you won't ever leave this office again, and you might just go Hollywood on all of us.
Before we talk about the sports, the Detroit Tigers, Tom Brady, and this whole idea that he's going to be on the cover of Madden, there's something that I've been noticing sitting in traffic quite a bit of time around these parts, and I'm curious because I don't know if you've driven with me, and I don't know if you know
Thankfully, no.
Yeah, my driving record. I've been seeing something that's been happening quite a bit on these 4-lane roads, and I'm curious to see what the actual rule is, because for me, I can openly say here on this podcast, I haven't had a road test in probably 10 years. I just keep renewing. My wife and everybody that drives with me just says, look, you're an awful driver. You don't know the rules. I'm always asking my wife in the car, who has the right of way? What are you supposed to do here and there? And from time to time, I just got to check in to make sure I am driving correctly. So what I've been seeing a lot on these roads, okay, a lot of roads that I take to get home are these 5-lane roads. And what I mean by it is 2 lanes going eastbound, 2 lanes going westbound, and then the middle lane that is the divider.
The divider or the left turn lane?
The turn lane, the lane that's marked by the yellow lines. Okay, and so what I see a lot of traffic. And then when there's a pileup between lights, you see all these cars. Then what I see is a car coming from the street. Okay, and what they try to do is there's heavy traffic, and they try to peek out into 2 lanes trying to get into the turn lane. And what they do is, some people are nice and they try to stop. Right? They try to stop and give the person space to cut in. Now they got to cut in through 1 lane. Then they got to peek through the other lane and get through the traffic, okay? Which I find to be dangerous because some people don't give them that space. So there's one thing. And then you got to deal with the oncoming traffic because not only do they not have enough space to get into the turn lane, they're trying to directly bypass the turn lane to get into a lane. And now I see it from both sides. I see people trying to cut, and I'm like, well, am I supposed to just stop and let the person go through? Because what I do is when I see a person peek out and I'm driving in the same road that they want to go in, I just keep going. I don't stop. I don't give them that space. But what I see more and more is a lot of traffic and people trying to get into the lanes, and it just doesn't seem like it's being done properly. I see a lot of anger. I see a lot of people flicking each other off, and I see a lot of people that are like 2 inches away from hitting the vehicle because they don't want to give that space, but that person's trying to ever so slowly peek. And if you're not paying attention, you're going to actually, if you're going eastbound, you're going to hit the car turning into that lane. And I just go, there has to be a better way of tackling this because it seems like everybody that's trying to do it is trying to skirt traffic or is causing problems. Do you see what you experience that?
I completely know what you're talking about, and there really isn't. There's no right way. There's no. Are you
supposed to let the person in?
No, you're not supposed to let. I mean,
you have the right of way as driver.
You have the right of way. It depends. Like if everyone is stopped, I think it's more of a courtesy. Like you shouldn't block an intersection. So if the street is trying to go out, you really shouldn't block it. So you can at least give them the opportunity to pull out. But if you have a green light, there should never be somebody who's stopped and letting somebody go out, because you're going to cause an accident that way. Because even if you stopped, there's no guarantee that the lane next to you is going to stop. So you're either going to cause an accident where somebody else plows into that guy, or you're going to cause an accident where that guy has to brake so hard, or he's going to swerve into you to trying to avoid this guy who's trying to merge out. And you see it on these huge busy highways. You see it on Metro Parkway, a 16-mile lot, where it's busy and it's people who are trying to turn left when they really should have no business turning left. I get it. It's heavy traffic, and it may be a little bit inconvenient for you to just turn right and maybe do a Michigan left. But if you want to be the safest way, if you want to be as safe as possible, that's what you should do. But people are idiots, and that's what I'm going to say about that. People are idiots driving.
Since the accident for yourself, have you noticed that you're more of a cautious driver, or how has your temperament been since the automobile incident that you had?
I haven't really found myself. I know there are people who they almost have like panic attacks when they drive. I know I have a friend who, back when he was in his early 20s, he was in a lot of accidents, and he was even in an accident where he got T-boned by an ambulance and got flipped over a couple times. And I know that he does have issues driving. Like, he kind of is very cautious and almost suffers from panic attacks on the road. But I haven't really dealt with anything like that. I do consider myself a pretty safe driver. I was never when I was younger, I was a little bit more reckless with my driving, switching lanes crazy, not really signaling. And I find myself to be a generally more safer driver. I don't speed too much. I speed if I have to, but I definitely know exactly where I'm going. And unless I'm extremely sleepy on the ride home from work, I think I'm a pretty good driver.
So there's no way to fix my dilemma, huh? You just got to try your best to pay attention. Don't be distracted. Don't get yourself in a situation where
you might be effed because you're a bad driver.
I'm a bad driver. But so far, so good. I've only been in a couple automobile accidents. One time it was my fault. And the one time it was my fault was because a car turned into me, but I was cited for not being extremely right of the lane. I was a little bit close to the center. So the guy turned into me. I was stopped, but I was at fault for being what they call left of center. So now I realize you got to be right. This isn't Europe. You can't be driving in the middle. You can't be in the middle. If you're on a side street, you got to be to the right as much as possible. And the cop determined. I was like, what? But other than that, I've been sideswiped and rear-ended.
You're the type of person that I hate. When you're right in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
I hate you, John. Because I'm trying to turn in and you're taking up the entire lane.
Exactly. John. It's my road, baby, and you're all just visitors.
Yeah, I know. It's all about you, John.
Now you're talking my language. Yes,
what
sir.
What a dick. Play the drop.
I'm not a dick. You're a dick. You're a dick for not supporting me. You should just tell me, look, this is what you got to be doing and things like that.
Here's what you do.
You're a dick.
You just do Uber from now on, so then you get off the road.
Dude, you hearing about Uber? People getting shot at, Lyft, Uber.
Fine, Lyft and Waymo, whatever. They're the ones who are going to do the self-driving cars.
No doubt about it. All right, Jason, thank you for the advice. From time to time, I got to check in and make sure that I'm doing things correctly because you know me. I'm oblivious to the world. I just do whatever I want.
I know. You're above everyone, so you need to get the advice of a common person.
Exactly. The advice from the common man. Advice from Jarvie. Very good. We'll check into that more often where the doc checks in with Jason Jarvie to make sure he's living life correctly. Come back down to earth from time to time and survey the landscape and make sure.
Live with all the serfs.
Exactly. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We'll talk Detroit Tigers after this quick timeout.
Motor City Sports Rant, Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Jason, I want to tell you about our host site, Podomatic. When Adam and I first started this project, we needed a way to get our audio that we recorded up to the internet, up to iTunes and the other various platforms in which podcasts can be heard. And the first place that we looked to was Podomatic.com. What a great decision that we made. Had we not gone with them, I don't even know where we would be. We might be looking at extraordinary fees. We might be looking at, issues with links. Podomatic.com removes all the issues. Podomatic is quick, super easy, user-friendly, and it gets your recorded audio up to everywhere you need so that your supporters and fans can listen. If you're looking to start a brand new podcast, there's only one place I would recommend, and that's the host site used by the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, Podomatic.com.
Landed someplace I ain't never been. Yet again, anticipate trouble veteran. Never blame like to ask you to come around. Never end the initiation most times. Never end these old school let it man. Never blame like to ask you if you know the code.
Motor City Sports Rant, Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Let me close the door, John. Were you born in a barn?
Of course.
Always ruining this podcast.
What is this you've dropped on us?
This is Open Mike Eagle, Ziggy Starfish.
What kind of music does this classify as?
He's kind of like a rap. He's kind of a comedy guy. I know he does stand up, but I really randomly found him. I was listening to. I found a different podcast.
What?
And I know, crazy, right? And he was one of the hosts, and he turned out to be a rapper. So I looked him up, and he has some really good raps on. If you got Spotify, check him out. Obviously, we pulled this from YouTube, but we're back on the Motor City Sports Rant.
So, real quickly, before we start talking about the Tigers, the weekend that was, I will argue that it was not that bad of a weekend going out to California and getting a split versus the Angels and having a 4-5 road trip. So stay tuned. We're going to get to that quickly. But outside of the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, what podcast are you listening to? What would you recommend?
Let me pull it up real quick. I'll tell you what I listen to outside of sports podcasts.
And you can find our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Podomatic, Podbay, anywhere you can find podcasts. You can even now stream all our podcasts directly from our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. But Jason, it's unbelievable, the medium of podcasting, where it's going, the ability to get sponsors and support. Look, even people that have lost jobs locally, I hope it gets to the point where people in town in Detroit, because there's so many great personalities. Right now, the way it is going is the only way bigger names are doing podcasts is if they get released or let go of their jobs. But it is I can't really advocate enough for how fun this is. I work hard all day, and I get to look forward to just having a chat with my buddy, like yourself, like Vito, like Adam, anybody that I do these podcasts with. I cannot, tell you guys enough how fun it is to just record audio, have a good time with it, and we're in complete control. So I hope it gets to the point where people don't just do podcasts as a second option, that it is a growing medium that people can do and get your voice out there. Look, guys like you and I, we just sit around and we can record high-quality radio-style content, but in our own way via the podcast platform, where if we want to talk for an hour before we take a break, that's what we do. We are in control 100% of the operation, where if you say, hey, you know what, I'm not going to come, fine, that's fine. We can do it the next day and put it up there. The complete control that you have is just amazing. So it's a cool thing. And but the fact that you listen to other podcasts besides DSP.
I know, and it stems because not many of you may know it. I'm not just a sports guy. I like stuff outside of sports, and I would probably classify myself as a nerd. So probably one of the biggest ones that I've listened to for a while, probably the one I've listened to the longest, is the Cracked podcast. And
that's a good name, the Crack Podcast.
Well, it's crack.com.
Crack.com.
It's a comedy website, but it's got lists, and it's a funny website. And they
lists good.
They have a lot of good articles, and they have really good podcasts.
Oh, Jason, I know you're not a big wrestling guy, but there is a bit called The List of Jericho, but that is where Jericho puts people on a list that he's pissed off at. Mm-hmm. But I do think we can have The List of Jarvie, where you just bring in some cool lists like, top 5 restaurants in town or top 10 things, and we'll see how many I could get right.
We can do that.
The List of Jarvie has now been born, and I'm looking forward to doing that in future episodes, The List of Jarvie. So from crack.com. Okay, very good.
We'll work that out.
I love my life. I have a wonderful family.
You're fired. I like We Got This with Mark and Hal, where they literally take they compare things. It's dumb, but like they did best Superman movie, and they went through all the different Supermans and decided what was the best one that they did. Nerd Poker, which I'm not sure if you're a Dungeons and Dragons guy.
No.
Do you know who Brian Posehn is?
I've heard the name, but
Brian Posehn, he's a comedian, he's a voice actor, and it's literally it's him and a bunch of his friends, and they play Dungeons and Dragons. It's funny. I feel like a dumb nerd who's telling you all my dirty, dark secrets that I listen to. And then one that I would suggest if you're a movie fan, a comedy movie or a comedy TV fan, it's called The Dead Pilot Society. And what they do with that is they take pilots for TV shows, not unsimilar to the Superstitious show from George Lopez. And they interviewed the people who wrote them and kind of got this story on the show. And for whatever reason or another, that didn't get made. And then they take actors and actresses that, are big names, and they do like a table reading. It's kind of cool.
Okay, Jason, when you look at the Detroit Tigers, when you look at what's happened with the Detroit Tigers and you say, oh, their history out west has not been very good. I mean, the Detroit Tigers have had success against a lot of ball clubs, but something against the Anaheim Angels is something that's been really, flabbergasting. But to go out there and to have a 4-5 road trip is not bad. And so where you look at it,
it's not bad. It's not good either.
It's not good either. But you got to remember, what was the Doc's expectation? What were the expectation of a lot of fans? It was around an 85-win team, so it could be a lot worse. At the time of this recording, it's a day off for the Tigers. They come back. They could have had, a series win versus the Angels. It just didn't happen. And there's some things, though, that we will talk about regarding the bigger names that are being paid by the Detroit Tigers not performing. But the way I want to start it is they got 18 wins, they got 18 losses, and for the better part of the last week, it's been win-loss, 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 and they split in the series, the 4 games versus the Angels, and there were a lot of positives, a lot of negatives, but I do want to start with at least a resolution for now. I'm pretty confident that Justin Wilson and the performances that we've seen, given the fact now that he is the closer, it was nice and refreshing to see the closer come out, throw the ball with 90-mile-an-hour plus heat in the mid-90s and get guys to strike out. That is what a closer is supposed to look like. That's the guy we've been clamoring for. And I'm hoping that this pattern with Justin Wilson can continue, because to see him go out there versus the Angels and just blow away the competition, strikeout, 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 making guys miss, the way he walked off the mound with that bravado, that's my closer. That's the guy I want. That's the guy that we can look to and say, hey, it's a 3-2 lead. Boom, go out there, do your job, throw high heat, and get these guys out.
Yeah,
I was
your
happy.
Closer until he blows a save.
But I think he's got the moxie. Look what happened when he gave up the home run. He hasn't given up that many hits. Come right back and kept on going. And I think that guys like Justin Wilson and what he can do for this team makes the Tigers team better. So I'm glad they demoted K-Rod in the last week. And for me, it was nice to see. What was your reaction when you saw Justin Wilson being named the closer and his first couple opportunities to do the job?
Well, at first I was a little upset because I didn't really want them to have just one closer. I really feel the way that you have success with this bullpen is you pitch the guy who is right for that situation. Now, it's been a relief that Justin Wilson has been as good as he has been in this new role, and all you can really hope for is that it continues, and that he does continue to show the ability to come back from giving up runs, because I think that speaks more volumes than him going out there and getting guys out. Unless he just absolutely goes out and gets every single guy out, that's amazing. But it's to see the resolve of pitchers who can give up a run or maybe walk a guy here or there, but is able to come right back and get out of jams.
Okay, so overall, you were impressed. But now what we've all been asking is, what do you do with K-Rod? Do you use him in the next high-leverage situation? I feel like I'm tired of hearing that claim. Like we should. I'm tired of hearing Brad Ausmus come out and say, we still have to work in K-Rod. We still got to work him in. He's gotten the opportunity to go back out in lower-level situations, and he's done the job. But do I have confidence that I want to see K-Rod out there in a 3-2 game, a guy that throws 90 miles an hour? No, but I understand what Brad Ausmus is trying to do. He's trying to keep his player with good spirits.
And that is exactly where I want him. I want him only in low-level situations. I think, what was he? He went in there when it was 7-1. The game was already in hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where you need to keep him. He shouldn't be anywhere near those 7, 8, 9 innings. He should be really used when your bullpen is down to its last legs. Mm-hmm. I mean, in my opinion, or when you do have a gigantic lead, when when it's the day when the offense actually goes off and we don't just score one run. You let him go out there. If he is going to have any success this season, you gotta have to. I think his confidence is just shook. So you gotta put him out there in an opportunity where he can give up a run or two, and you're not going to cost the game. Let him build that confidence up, and maybe towards the end of the season, if you haven't already tried to deal him for a bag of balls, maybe look at the 7th or 8th inning. But I think he should be nowhere near this closer position for the rest of his tenure here as a Tiger.
No doubt about it. And I know that people were concerned like it's going to cause a ripple effect, 7th inning, 8th inning, but you realize Shane Green is serviceable. You realize that Alex Wilson is a guy that we can start to count on, and you just got to say we need 1 or 2 more guys to come up. I am concerned, though, regarding the reports that I heard on Monday that Jimenez is going to be out for a month regarding his back situation, and I thought it was going to be a minor thing when the news broke that he was going to be put on the disabled list, but it's looking right now like he's going to be on the shelf for a month. So that takes that option out. Do you have confidence in Blaine Hardy? Anibal Sanchez is a sieve, and he's going to be, likely not on this team by the time this podcast even airs. But I just need 2 more guys to come up and step up, either from the minors or you make a move, but you need a couple more guys, and you're close to basically, when you look at it, the bullpen's done a fairly decent job in keeping the Tigers in games in the last week. So it's turning around, but there's still a big question mark regarding why is Anibal Sanchez on this team. You could definitely send him down or do something to get another dude up here, and that search is still continuing. Who's going to be that 2nd or 3rd guy to step up for this bullpen to take the pressure off? Because you can't pitch Alex Wilson, Justin Wilson every single game. You just can't do it. You can't have a bullpen of just 4 guys: Shane Green, Blaine Hardy, Alex Wilson, Justin Wilson. You need 1 or 2 more guys that you can call upon. It ain't Anibal Sanchez, and Shane Green, the jury's still out on what he's capable of doing.
Yeah, and I know if we are fortunate enough to get to the playoffs, that might be a different story, because then you can probably get through that short span of time with Wilson, Green, and a little bit of Blaine Hardy. Because if we are that good and we're in the playoffs, then I'm guessing that Justin Verlander isn't having the struggles that he's been having early on in the season. I think you're just gonna have to try and find something somewhere, because that guy isn't on your team, and maybe it is Francisco Rodriguez. Maybe he can be that middle of the game guy who can give you an inning, maybe an inning and a half to 2, and just give you a little bit of relief when one of your starters isn't feeling it and gives up a bunch of runs. Outside of one of those guys turning it around, you're gonna have to either look. I think you're really just gonna have to look outside of the organization, because I don't think they're confident enough in what's down in the minor leagues. I think if there was somebody there, I'd like to think that they would have at least dropped Anibal Sanchez by this point. But you're gonna have to probably be a player in the trade game this year. If you are in that position to upgrade your team, you need to upgrade your bullpen, because you need at least an arm, maybe even 2, to get through this entire season. Because I doubt all 4 of those guys, Wilson, Hardy, and Green, are going to last this entire season.
And so now the other big talking point, and one that's kind of rounding into shape, and people are now looking at it, is they're not really picking on guys like K-Rod. They obviously have let go of their passion towards Anibal Sanchez. They just want him gone. And so when he's out there, he's a laughingstock. And the question is, how many home runs is he going to give up? How many runs is he going to give up? Because nobody has any faith in him. But now people are starting to turn their attention to the guys making $20 million plus, or guys that are making above $15 million on this team, and their lack thereof of production. People are starting to question, okay, Justin Verlander is making $28 million. Jordan Zimmermann, a guy that's making above $20 million, he's not performing as well. Victor Martinez is batting consistently, but people are looking at him and going, does he deserve that spot to bat 4th? You're looking at a couple guys that are highly paid, especially guys like Miguel Cabrera, who everybody says, yes, he'll turn it around. Yes, he'll be the guy. But yet he's not batting anywhere near his average. And when you look at it, you have to focus on the guys on your roster that are paid significantly. And so of those 3 guys, are you concerned? Are you patiently waiting? Are you starting to turn your focus to those guys? Because when I look at it now, that's where my focus is like, whoa, JV's had a couple starts where he's walking a lot of guys. Jordan Zimmermann is now a guy that's giving up home runs at a clip similar to his colleague Anibal Sanchez. Miguel Cabrera, we need you to hit, so if you pick up the slack, maybe you win 3 or 4 out there in California. You concerned at all? And I guess if I were to say who am I most concerned about, it's Jordan Zimmermann, because if it's a neck injury, well, you say I can be patient, I can maybe wait it out. But if this is the start of his decline being an older pitcher and his stuff ain't good anymore in the American League, oh boy, we're in trouble because we owe that dude a boatload of money.
Well, no doubt Jordan Zimmermann is absolutely the biggest issue of those guys, because he's almost in the situation where when we had Joe Nathan. You paid Joe Nathan a butt ton of money to be your closer, and he just never had it. And Jordan Zimmermann may have had it for, a month or 2 in his first season last year. And, I mean, you can blame some of it on injuries, but it might just be he's on the decline. And I'm not sure, maybe he's the guy that would benefit from putting him in the bullpen. But that's just us fans talking. We can talk all we want about sending starters down to the bullpen and, having them be those long reliever guys. How long did it take for them, though, to put Anibal Sanchez down in the bullpen? And he isn't even working out. So Jordan Zimmermann is the guy that I'm most scared about. Next, I'd probably go with Victor Martinez, even though he is
batting above 300 in May.
He's doing pretty well, but there's no reason that guy needs to be number 4 in the lineup. I think he needs to be dropped down, because I think there are other guys on our team. Definitely JD Martinez. I know he's coming off of the injury, but he's a young player who deserves more at-bats. He definitely deserves more at-bats than Victor Martinez, because I think if you're trying to get the most at-bats for the guys who are definitely going to give you power hitting and a good chance at extra base hits, I think JD Martinez is that. Victor Martinez is, unless it's an absolute shot into the gap and the outfielder completely misses it, he's going to get a single every time. So it's either going to be a single or it's going to be a home run. So I think he needs to be moved down. But this organization is just too loyal to a fault to the guys that they've paid so much money to. I mean, that's why we have Anibal Sanchez still on this roster, even when he has no business being on any Major League Baseball team. He's given up like 26 runs in 18 innings. It's ridiculous. Justin Verlander, Miguel Cabrera, I am definitely concerned, but I do believe that they have proven it. They should be able to turn around. Obviously, Miguel is probably the guy who I'm least concerned about, because he's still
he's Miguel,
he's a Hall of Fame player.
He's a Hall of Famer.
I think it's if anything with him, I think it's physical, and maybe his body is breaking down. I think you can't teach seeing a baseball, and I think he can see a baseball. He can see where the ball's going, and it might just be, maybe it's something with his hip, maybe it's something with his knee, or his back, that it's just the body won't do what the mind tells it to do.
Do you see this Tiger team as having potential to get to the postseason and have success? Or do you say to yourself, it's going to take more moves, it's going to take a lot of things to go right for them to be successful? Because I look at it and I say, they're 18-18, they're playing 500 baseball, win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. That's about where I think they should be. It could be a lot worse.
That's what I said at the beginning of the season, is that it's going to be another roller coaster ride. You're going to be up a couple games, you're going to be down a couple games, and that's right where we are. 36 games into this season. We're almost at the 40 game mark, and that's probably where we're going to be this entire next couple of months. And I do think we're in the right division. I've said it before. We're in the right division for this roller coaster ride, the AL Central, where we're still only 2 games out of first place.
So before we switch our attention and talk about Tom Brady and himself getting on the cover of the Madden game, what is the biggest storyline with the Detroit Tigers right now? Is it the issues with the big name guys, or is it the bullpen? Because it's those two things that people are talking about. What's more concerning to you? Is it that, we already know what the bullpen can do, we just got to sit back and watch it game in and game out? Or is it the fact that, hey, you got big name guys that are getting paid huge that are struggling and are having some things go wrong for them? Which issue do you think is most pressing, that is causing the most anxiety for the fans?
I think it has nothing to do with pitching. What gives me the most anxiety is that this offense is nowhere near
goes
consistent.
off the board. Offensive inconsistency.
It's literally you're either scoring 7 runs or you're scoring 1 run. As you can have a great pitcher, have a great outing. If you only score 1 run,
We don't win anymore.
I don't agree with Donald Trump very often. I will agree with him on that point.
Okay, so you went off the board. Offensive inconsistencies. I kind of don't agree with Brad Ausmus on a lot of things, but I will agree when he made his comments on Sunday. He said, look, this offense is going to come around. We just need a little bit more consistency. You see the fact that they can hit, but the question is, can there be consistency?
And it was the same issue they had last year.
I'm not saying you're totally out of the blue. I just say that I believe the answer is they will be more consistent on offense. It just needs a little bit more time. Let guys come back with more rhythm. And you still see Kinsler's coming back from an injury. JD's working himself back. You can see that he's still slowed down out there in the outfield. He's still working his way back, but still producing offensively. And you just need Nick Castellanos to get out of his slump, and you need James McCann to contribute offensively. And I would say that in terms of the offense, you might need to consider playing Alex Avila a little bit more than James McCann, because McCann, while he does hit home runs, his batting average is not good enough, and his on-base percentage is not good enough to warrant him playing a lot more than Alex Avila. So we'll see what happens, but I respect your concerns, no doubt about it. So who does not care about curses? A guy that would probably say, I don't believe what George Lopez is trying to do with the Lions curse. He doesn't believe in Bobby Lane curse, and that name is Tom Brady. So I started to look when we were going to talk about this at the Madden curse, and when you look at the names that have been featured on the cover, so for those that don't know, the Madden curse involves the game Madden. Each year a new football game comes out for video game players, and the Madden franchise is huge. You got people that literally wait all year to buy the new Madden game, and what they do is they plan days off, a couple days, and just sit and binge play the new Madden game when it comes out.
Which is dumb, because it's essentially the same game every single year.
You and I are not one of those kind of guys. We do play it, but not to the degree where we're like addicted and binge playing seasons and general managers and stuff like that. It's not to that degree for us. But what's going on is people will say, look who's been on the curse. The likes of Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson, Gronkowski. The list goes on and on and on and on. And many people believe it to be true that athletes that grace the cover, NFL athletes that are on the cover of the Madden game, are cursed and are likely going to fall to injury or have something bad happen to them. But when the name was revealed for the 2018 cover, the name is Tom Brady. And so that's an interesting name, because this is a man that's had great success. This is a man that probably transcends curses. And if there was an athlete that it might skip a player, it might be Tom Brady. But I want to ask you, if you were an athlete, if you were a star player like Tom Brady, and EA calls and says, look, going to drop you a check for $1 million, going to give you some cash to be on this cover, knowing what you know about the curse, you take the cash, or you say, look, nah, I can pass. I'm getting, my wife's making 30, 40 million a year. I'm making 15, 20. I'm good, man. I don't need to be on this.
The dude has won how many Super Bowls?
A shit ton more than the Lions.
Yeah, he's fine on the cover. And the Detroit's actually already broken a curse before, and they broke the Madden curse. Calvin Johnson back in 2013, even though the Lions didn't have success, he had a record-breaking season that year.
But he retires early. Now you see what he's coming out with. He's like, oh, I can't. My fingers are all crooked. I'm tired.
The Madden curse refers to that year specifically, and it didn't affect Calvin Johnson that year. And after that, there's only been, I think, one that it's really, or two. I take that back. It affected AP, which was the year after Calvin Johnson. I think he blew out his ACL in that season. But it didn't affect Richard Sherman, didn't affect Odell Beckham Jr. after his rookie year, but it did, and I'm not sure if this is all Madden curse, it did affect Rob Gronkowski last year. But I think you could arguably say that Rob Gronkowski is already fairly injury prone going into this, so it was pretty probable that he was going to miss some time for this. So I think Tom Brady, he's shown that he's one of the most durable players in the NFL. Aside from the season that he missed from getting rolled up in that one, one of the season openers, Tom Brady's probably going to be fine.
Bold prediction: Tom Brady will not finish the 2017 season. I believe that if it was me and they came a calling, I'd be like, look, if you're going to give me $6 million plus, okay, we'll have a meeting and then I'll take some information down regarding what we can do here. But in essence, my thinking going into it would be, Hell to the no. I want to continue to have success. There's a young buck quarterback that's just waiting to pounce on an opportunity to roll up into that system, because what New England has set up, and I will start the discussion that maybe Tom Brady is super, he is great, but maybe another quarterback could have been in that system as well and had some success. Maybe not to the degree that Tom Brady did, but I also believe in the power of Bill Belichick and the system, because look at what happened when he was out. The quarterback that took over won damn near 11 or 12 games, right?
And then you see where Matt Kessel has gone the rest of his career.
But we're not talking about that. We're talking about what he was able to do in Bill Belichick's system. What have the quarterbacks been able to do?
Super Bowl.
That's true. But they also had success. So I will say that at the same time, that if it was me and the opportunity presented itself, I would turn it down. And I think that Tom Brady is going to have an awful 2017 season. They will not win the Super Bowl. And if they make the postseason, something fluky is going to happen in regards to a weird interception. Something's going to happen where, he's going to have a wide open pass to Gronkowski and the ball will just somehow or another get pushed 2 yards up.
I think
something
you've been
unusual.
Spending too much time around George Lopez.
The curse is real, baby.
You said he's going to actually have a bad year, or is he not going to make it through the year?
He is going to, if my bold prediction comes true, is going to be injured probably around week 7, 8, or 9, and he will not finish the year. It'll be the year where the discussion starts. Is it time to replace Tom Brady?
So I'll say that...
No, of course not.
I will say that Tom Brady won't finish the year, but it's only because the Patriots are going to be 14-2 or 13-3, have a playoff position locked up, and they have a December 31st game at the New York Jets, and he won't need to play. He'll be fine.
He'll be fine. I think Tom Brady will be regretful of his decision to grace the cover of Madden 18.
Well, I think his entire career he's been looked down upon. Definitely in his draft choice, people not respecting his arm strength. And I don't even like the guy, but Tom Brady's going to laugh at you, and he's probably going to win whatever the AFC East again.
We shall see, Jason. Okay, bold prediction from the DOC. I had a good time talking to you this week. In the future, I got to plan for a little bit more time because we can start doing a little bit more than an hour on some Mondays. But I have a good time. I think an hour for this week is just the right amount of time for this very fine episode. It was very good. To recap, we talked a little bit about the Tigers, talked a little bit about the show Very Superstitious, and we kind of got into a little bit of what superstitions mean to us and whether we believe Tom Brady is going to succumb to the Madden curse. So it was a good podcast, sir. I really enjoyed it.
For sure. It was a good show.
And always, when you can help me out in life, it's always a good thing.
I will. Just ask, real quick question before we go. Mike O'Hara came out, gave his comparisons of Lions rookies, and he compared first-round draft pick Jared Davis to one Chris Spielman. What do you think?
Sorry for my ignorance, but who's Mike O'Hara again?
Ouch.
I'm just kidding. He's a very respected journalist, but at this point in time, he went corporate. He took the money and he works for DetroitLions.com. So the way I kind of think about it now is I always take everything that's said by the likes of Torrey Petrie, by Mr. Twentyman, by Mike O'Hara with a grain of salt because they're on the company dole. So I'm happy, and the way I'm going to look at it with Davis and the rookie minicamps are like this. Stay healthy. Learn the system. I don't care if you compare him to, the man that he loves, Ray Lewis himself. When the pressure's on, you're playing for the Detroit Lions. You know the story of the organization. It doesn't matter if he plays great week 1, week 2, week 3. It doesn't matter if he has 5 interceptions, 10 sacks, and lights the world on fire. I'm going right to the final exam. When it's time and it's 3rd down and 2 and Russell Wilson is scrambling and he needs that first down, does Davis make the move? Or does Russell Wilson shake free and get the first down? I don't care anymore when we look at, of course I care to watch and see about his development and progression. But right now, what I want to see with these athletes, with Matthew Stafford, with Golden Tate, with all the new draft picks is when the final exam is due, when it's time, and your job is to stop Russell Wilson on 3rd and 2, and you're out there and you can make an open field tackle, do you make it? I don't care if he's compared to the greatest linebackers of all time, Dick Butkus. I don't care. I just want to know that when it's time, when the lights are on, when the mics are hot in the podcasting world, when it's time to do the business, can you spit out the words and put out a show? Or do you do a 5-minute show and call it a podcast? When the time comes and you got to go out there and make the move and make the play for my Lions, go out there and do it. with what Mike O'Hare said, good for him. I don't care about comparisons.
Well, we'll definitely talk more Lions in future podcasts, but until then, I'm Jason Jarvie. He's John Macaroon, TV star. Later.
Okay, nice, idiot. F you. Bye-bye.
Good day, sir. I said good day.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Loser.